says, quote, "I think we can focus on the Ukraine-U.S. angle. The mainstream media spread fake news claiming that ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack, yet ISIS never made such statements. All terrorists are now detained while they are heading back to the border with Ukraine, which makes it even more suspicious that they would want to go to Ukraine to hide." So what they were doing is they were taking a terrorist attack by ISIS and trying to blame it on Ukraine. Benny Johnson replies after Chen asks if any of the commentators want to cover a story like that. Benny Johnson replies, "I want to talk about the video I just put out titled Russian Shill, Benny Johnson downplays January 6th for a half hour. Stand by every single thing I've said in that. In the comments, I got a bunch of people calling me a low T, cuck or whatever. Offered almost all of them to come on and talk, and all of them either stayed suspiciously silent or suspiciously said no. But the biggest criticism that I've seen in this comment section is the comment in which I called Benny Johnson a Russian shill. And I want to clarify what I think about that a little bit, because I think it's very important to have a lot of transparency. So, Russian interference in U.S. elections is a problem beyond the left and right paradigm. They want to fuck up our discourse, and they want to make everything as unstable as possible. And it just so happens that supporting Donald Trump and right-wing media is a very destabilizing thing for Russian, or the Kremlin, to support. So we're going to go through the Tenet media indictment and just make sure that we understand exactly what I'm talking about here. Because this one comment got to me a little bit. Not because it was like profound or mean, but because it hit at exactly what I want to make this video about. So it says, "Okay, so you're a Russian shill, right? I mean, all I have to do is call you it. You are a Russian asset, right?" Okay. And then it goes on to say, "You are just some rando. You provided no facts. You are a neo-Nazi because you enjoy the political persecution of Donald Trump." So what he's getting at with that comment is that I'm just calling Benny Johnson a Russian asset because it's a catchy, sexy political term, not because there's anything to back it up. So, to that, I want to introduce the Tenet Media indictment. This is the notes that I took on the Tenet Media indictment. I read it when it came out because I thought it was insane. And this is why I call Benny Johnson a Russian asset. So, basically, over the past year, RT and its employees, including Kostya and Lana, the defendants in this case, have deployed nearly $10 million laundered through a network of foreign shell entities to cover up or to covertly fund and direct Tenet Media, a company that publishes English language videos on multiple social media channels. And here are the people involved. We have RT, which is formerly Russia Today. That is a state-controlled media outlet controlled on behalf of Russia. We have Kostya, Russian citizen who was, employed on behalf of RT to funnel money into Tenet Media and direct their operations. Or at least this is all alleged by the indictment. We have Lana, who also partook in that. We have Tenet Media, the company in which they were giving the money to spread disinformation or information that is divisive in order to throw American media into a tailspin and throw voters into a tailspin. Lauren Chen, the founder of Tenet Media. Liam Donovan, founder of Tenet Media. Dave Rubin, a.k.a. Commentator 1. Tim Pool, or Commentator 2. Benny Johnson, a.k.a. Commentator 3, a.k.a. the person that I covered that made a lot of people really mad at me calling him a Russian asset. And Lauren Southern, Commentator 4. And Taylor Hansen, Commentator 5. And Matt Christensen, Commentator 6. This is a rundown of FARA, which is a thing in which foreign actors, if they're working on behalf of a state government, need to register with FARA in order to do legal lobbying. So if you're doing lobbying on behalf of the Russian government, you have to register that with FARA, which the people involved with Tenet Media did not do. There's a really funny part with Benny Johnson, I believe. Yeah, okay. So this is why I call him a Russian shill. Because in this indictment, they lay out that the commentators didn't know that the money that they were getting out of the blue at the tone of millions of dollars a year was coming from a shady source, because all of these RT employees were working under pseudonyms and kind of, you know, playing a trick on all of the commentators along with Lauren Chen and the founder too. And they were getting millions of dollars from this mystery investor to cover a bunch of questionable topics. And when you're getting an extra $2 million a year, I feel like that would raise some, or maybe it was more than $2 million. $5 million a year for Tim Pool, about $5 million a year for Dave Rubin. I feel like that would raise some red flags. We don't know specifically how much people like Lauren Southern or Benny Johnson made, but the guess is that it was somewhere around there. I think that's a reasonable assumption. So here's the funny part. So as Helena Shudra, one of Lana's fake identities, messages Chen asking, quote, one of our creators to record something about the Moscow terror attack, and says, quote, I think we can focus on the Ukraine-U.S. angle. The mainstream media spread fake news claiming that ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack, yet ISIS never made such statements. All terrorists are now detained while they are heading back to the border with Ukraine, which makes it even more suspicious that they would want to go to Ukraine to hide. So what they were doing is they were taking a terrorist attack by ISIS and trying to blame it on Ukraine. Benny Johnson replies, after Chen asks if any of the commentators want to cover a story like that, Benny Johnson replies, I'm happy to cover it. So he gets a giant deposit from a mystery investor asking him to spread news contrary to popular reporting, criminalizing Ukraine for a terrorist attack within Russia, and Benny Johnson is happy to do it. Turns out the money that he was being paid to work for Tenet Media was coming from the Kremlin. That is why he is a Russian asset. Not because I just said so, because the company that was paying him and the people that were paying him from RT were indicted for doing this. It's not just as simple as I said so and thus he is. It is because he was implied in this indictment in which Russia was funneling millions of dollars into our media environment to pay creators to skew what they were covering, typically in Russian interest. So I'm glad we got that covered. Hopefully this video will help. For legal reasons, all of this is just what is alleged by the indictment and has never been proven in a court of law. So, I'm not going to, claim that any of this is indisputable fact. But if what is in the indictment is true, which I personally believe it is, not looking so good for Benny Johnson.